All right. So I want to share a few specific things that I didn't go over when I discussed the how to write the paper. Um, let's review quickly. Well, I put in links here for the Lord article if you need it. The one article that I don't know if you have access to it through the assignments is philosophy. So if you're thinking of using that one, I put a link to all of the articles at the bottom. So you just click on those and get the articles. I'm going to sneeze. Nope. Okay. So then I've also added a few things to the suggestions, and I've also added a whole section on how to conclude your paper. And so take a look at number 6 there. Just give you a bunch of different ways. And you can use one of these or more than one of these. I wouldn't use all of them, but you can certainly combine. And then the biggest thing that I want to emphasize is that we didn't talk about is you're really trying to be convincing. You want to use pathos here. You want to get people emotional, right? This is similar to the narrative paper that you wrote in the first one, where you're trying to get colleges, invested in who you are and get them to hold. Sorry, I got sick. To want to have you as a student. In this paper, you're trying to get people fired up, right? You're trying to change the world and get people to treat each other differently. And the way to do that is to use pathos. So in your narrative, be really specific. If there was something that you experienced or something that you or saw or heard or it happened to you, write the actual words that the person said, regardless of how hurtful or politically incorrect they are. That's the whole point, right? You want, and now depending on your audience, you're not going to say certain things to second graders. That would be inappropriate. But depending on who your audience is, especially if it's students, they can handle that. And that wouldn't even necessarily be an inappropriate thing to say, just depending on the circumstance. But you want people to get emotional. You want people to cry. You want people to feel like they really need to speak out and do something about the problem, right? So you want to present the problem in a way that it seems like it's really a huge problem. And there's really no better way to do that than through pathos, right? And then once you get to the solution, be specific as well. What exactly can people do? If it's how they should act, then give them a specific situation. Like when you see this happen, then say this or do this. The more specific you are in both your narrative and your solution, the better your grade is going to be on this paper. And the one place, so that's where I have the advice here. Use pathos and be specific and emotional. And then the one place where it's going to be a little bit harder to figure out how to do it is to incorporate your articles. So, I have this suggestions here of where you can put in, the Lord article. I would probably do that at the very beginning or the very end. Do it at the beginning to introduce the idea that, hey, I felt like this is why I'm here. Felt like I really needed to speak out, and as Andrea Ward said in her speech, blah blah blah, and then go from there. Or you could say at the very end. So you start with a narrative or start with a problem, and go through the solution, and then as the conclusion, just say, it's important that we speak out, just as Andre Lord says, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. As far as the other article that you're going to use, I would either use it as an explanation of what the problem is, or as one of your examples of the problem, and then you can go further on that and get into your own what do you call it, example. And then as far as the structure goes, this one's really up to you. There's 100 different ways to make this really effective. You can start with the story. I mean, you could just, without even any introduction, just, once upon a time, there was a kid who blah, 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 and that kid was me or whatever. If you want to start with the story, really emotional, get people drawn in, and then get into why it's a problem and how to fix it and that kind of thing. You can't, if you rather start just by introducing yourself and getting right into the problem, giving some statistics or examples, and then using the narrative to as an example of the problem, and then get into solutions. You could also use a narrative as your solution, right? It doesn't just have to be an example of the problem. If you've seen someone effectively solve the problem and speak out and speak out against whatever the problem is in an effective way, you can certainly do that. Narratives are always very convincing as far as when it comes to kind of emotional topics, so feel free to do that. I think that's it. And then if you're still kind of stuck on what kind of issues do I talk about, that's the part at the bottom here. Any of these, and then these are the articles to where to find them or to use. If you have any questions, you have a few days left, depending on when you're watching this video. Otherwise, you can email me. Okay. Good luck.